Hey guys, it's been a while since I've made a couple Xcode tutorials, so I figured I'd jump back on them. Today we're going to go over setting up a collection view. The first thing we're going to do is we have our single view application here with our storyboard and our main view. I'm going to come down to our tools and we are going to get a collection view. Drag and drop that in. We can leave a little room for the top status bar there. Okay, now that we have that in there, let's drag a CollectionView cell in there, and then we'll resize it. Probably, I'm going to make these little squares so we can have more than one, and I'm going to set up the background to be white. And let's add more than one item here so we can check the spacing. Now you can see that the cells are lined up on the outside, and the way to fix that is to click on your collection view, click on our sizes here, and we can see section insets. And we also have min spacing too, which is the spacing between the cells, but our insets will be from the top, let's make that 5, the bottom when we scroll all the way down to 5, maybe the left at 5, and the right at 5. So you can see they look a little bit more even now. They have some space and margins on the side. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the other 4 that we don't need. Just have one cell for right now. Okay, and I'm going to come up here and we're going to make a new file, and we'll make a new UI view controller, and we'll call this cells view controller. Okay, I'm just going to go back to our storyboard and assign that. Alrighty. Now if we run this, you'll see that nothing shows up. And that's because we haven't set up the data source and the delegates for the actual collection view. So we're going to go back and do that right now. So we're going to go into the header file. And we are going to need an array of objects that we want to show in the collection view. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a mutable array. Just call it items. And we need a IB outlet for our collection view. And we'll call that items table. Okay, I'm going to go back to our storyboard and set up the items table. Okay, so I linked that. Now what we are going to need is items in the array. So I'm just going to go ahead here and init the array. And then we'll do items add object. Let's just add 1. And maybe we'll add 4 items. Now this array is just filled with strings, basically. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we want 1, 2, 3, and 4 to show up on each cell. So the way I'm going to do it is I am going to make a new folder or new group in my project. I'm going to call it cells, and we'll add a new file, and that'll be a UICollectionView Cell, and we'll call this a number cell. Now there's easier ways to do this, but the reason I'm doing this in an actual class is because I want to customize this cell later with other tools and maybe add an image view and maybe a map view even. So we'll get into that later, but basically right now I'm just going to show you how to set up the cell by itself with just a string value as 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I'm going to set up an IB outlet with a UI label. We'll call that text number, and we're going to load the cell with the NS string of the number. Okay, I'm going to copy that and take it into the main file, and then I can do txt number. We'll set the text with number, the number we're sending to the cell. So whatever I send the cell or load the cell now, whatever number I send it to will show up in the label. So I'm going to go back to our view controller. Now we're going to add a couple other things here. We're going to add items table, set data source self, and items table set delegate self. And we're going to have to go back to our header file and set up the delegates for the data source and the delegate of the collection view. And you can see those go away. Now there are 3 more methods that we're going to need. I'm going to get rid of this prepare for seg here. First method we're going to need here is NSInteger, and it's going to be the number of sections in the collection view. Now, typically we're just going to have one section, so we're just going to return 1 here. Next we're going to need another NSInteger of collection view, number of items in the section. So now that we have one section, we need the number of items, which is going to be the number of items in our array. So we're going to return items.count. And finally, we're going to need the UICollectionView Cell that we are going to return at the index path, and we need to set this up. So now we need to find the collection view that we want to, or the collection view cell that we want to show at the index path. So the first thing we need is the NS string from the array. We'll call it buff is equal to items at the index path dot row. Now that should give us either 1, 2, 3, or 4 when we reload the data, because the collection view cycles through through the array, the number of items in the array, the count, and then finds the item that we're going to show, or the collection view cell that we're going to show. So now that we have the string, we're going to import our number cell, and we're going to do number cell, call it cell, is equal to a number cell, and we have the collection view DQ, the reusable cell, with the identifier. We'll call it number cell again, and we want to set it for the index path. Okay, now that we have the cell, we can load the cell with buff, or our number. And then obviously that function wants us to return the cell that we want to see. So we grab the item from the array, we make a new reusable cell with this reuse identifier, which I'll show you where to set that up in the storyboard. Then we load the cell, and then we return it. So let's go back to our storyboard, and let's customize the cell a little bit. So we know the class is number cell, and the identifier right here is where we specified that reuse identifier when we dequeued the cell. So we're going to call that number cell. And I think we added a label. So we'll put a label right in the middle, and we will connect that with txt number. Okay, there's one other thing we have to do, and that's back here where we have the items. Now these functions down here, these delegates are never going to get called unless we do items table reload data. So basically that's going to go through, check all these, and reload the data on the actual table collection view itself. So let's run it and see where we are. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 from our array into collection view cells. In my next tutorial, I'll go through setting up custom cells with picture views and buttons and other text and everything like that, and we'll just continue on with this collection view and try to make a news feed type app out of it.